How can a foreigner survive in the United Kingdom? When somebody new comes to the United Kingdom, they have to learn new ways about making friends, new ways about doing business, new ways and new habits at work, and so on. So they have to learn everything from the beginning, from zero. There is a saying that goes, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. When in Britain, do what the British do. Then you'll be safe. So when I first came to the UK in 1991, this is exactly what I had to do. I had to learn everything from the beginning. I first worked for a market company when I got to learn about new habits at work. And I also taught in colleges, adult colleges across the Northwest, and also in prisons. And then when I taught French, I also included elements of the French culture as part of my lessons. And I also used to run after-school workshops to students aiming at doing well at their GCSEs or A-level. And I would always include something about the culture. So, as I said, I had to learn everything from the beginning. I'll give you there is an example. One evening, I had my evening dinner, which we call in the Northwest tea, having tea at 5 o'clock, something I didn't know I understood until I came to this country. Because to me, having tea is having a cup of tea. But then in this instance, it's having dinner. So we had dinner, sat in front of the television, with our plates on our lap. And then at some point my wife said to me, I would like a cup of tea, please. Then I went, you want a cup of tea now? Why is that? Because we haven't finished our dinner yet. And then she went, yeah, you may be doing that over there in France. Then I went, yes, absolutely. We are having a cup of tea afterwards. Yeah, but you're not in France at a minute. You are in the UK. Oh, but yes, I know that. But anyway, the conversation went for a little while. But in the end, I made a cup of tea. And we enjoyed the rest of our dinner in front of the program we were watching at the time. And there are plenty of situations like that. And it seems that there are little differences, but it's very important. Those habits are part of the culture and of people's habits. And that's something we have to respect and to understand. But ever since I have adopted that habit, I have my cup of tea during our meal. Or coffee. Mainly coffee for me. So, and it took me a while to integrate in a British culture. Because people do things differently, and that's perfectly understandable. So the aim of the workshops I am now running would be to actually ease the transition and to help people integrate with confidence in their new life in the United Kingdom. And the cup of tea example is one of those situations we can reenact as part of the workshop and also look at other situations. And there are plenty. So, I work in different places, as I just mentioned earlier, in colleges, prisons, after school workshop at the beginning. I did private tuition to people who wanted to go to France either on holiday or on business. And I had the privilege to also work with young people. And it was very interesting because I had to find ways to bridge the gaps between the two generations, the older generation and the younger generation. One evening I went to work and he went like this. Sick. I could hear the word sick a bit everywhere, and so I was scratching my head. Who's sick around here? And it took me a little while to adjust. And I realized, hang on a minute, being sick is being great, wonderful. That's fantastic. So I am sick, I am wonderful. I am great. So it was a sick evening. It was a great evening. This is when the young lad came to me and explained to me what it meant. And these are phrases, these phrases here in this example as part of the youth culture. They create their own language, their own community and all that. And that's very important to understand that. So there are plenty of examples in languages, and in this instance, particularly in English, a lot of phrases and examples of phrases that we don't necessarily know when we come over here. And that's an area that I will also be exploring in the workshops in question. And then look at different ways how could these phrases can be used and understood, because the fundamental things here is to understand the country where you are and the people you are communicating with. Because then if you can understand and communicate with the people you are with, it means it's going to be easier for you to integrate. It's going to be a bit quicker than just doing it the hard way. And it's also going to help you to find work and do business in your country of adoption, in this instance, the United Kingdom, and even more precisely here in England and the Northwest. Or the Midland, as we are here in Birmingham today. But there is also a thing, we also make stereotype, don't we, about people from other countries. And there is a good stereotype about the English that we have. To us, English people are polite people. They are polite because they don't want to offend you. They don't want to hurt you. In France, and generally speaking in Europe, and also particularly in France, we tend to be a bit more direct on what we say and we think. So I'll give you an example. When I first was in this country, for example, some people were saying that, oh, your English is good. When visibly I could see on their face they couldn't quite follow what I was saying. Yeah, maybe my vocabulary was acceptable, was good enough at the time, but visibly when they couldn't understand me, obviously they didn't want to hurt me. But I think at that moment, I would have appreciated if somebody would have said to me, maybe speak a bit slower, take your time, or that kind of thing. I'll find a way. But anyway, that's good, because it does show that to be polite is a mark of it's a quality to have. But also there is a habit that I've noticed that English people have developed. They probably developed that before I just came over. But English people seem to apologize for everything, even when they're not wrong. And there are plenty of situations like that we can explore in those workshops, so then you can adapt yourself quicker, better, and then you don't look weird to other people. Then you can be part of that community rather than being rejected by that very community, if you know a bit more about the country where you're going to. So the workshops the aims of the workshops is to help the transition from your old life to your new life in this country and to adapt with confidence. So I have different workshops. Some workshops could be just about exploring different situations. That could be just a half-day workshop, and there will be also 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon workshop, and looking at the survival guide in the UK and your first month survival. And then you can find more details on my website, survivinguk.com. And then you will see things or what I do and talk I've given and gave and my experience with regard to communication and culture. But I would like to leave you with 3 tips. The first thing is to accept people, but accept that there are differences, because that's the way it is. And appreciate the country and the people where you are. Show appreciation for the country or where you are, and then I'm sure it will be easier for you to integrate. And also embrace diversity, because to me, diversity is richness in life, also to different things, way of thinking. So rather than imposing your own way of thinking, I think, in my opinion, is far better to embrace diversity. So acceptance, appreciation, embrace diversity. And Julie Bishop gave a good quote: "We are increasingly recognizing, respecting, and celebrating our cultural diversity." And I would add, despite all the problems and the conflict there are, more people and more people are thinking that way. And we will be living in a better world. Thank you.